Imagine a future where medical breakthroughs are happening at, well, warp speed.
Hmm.
Life-saving treatments, incredible diagnostics, even robotic precision in surgery. It's truly a vision we've all dreamt of, isn't it?
It really is.
But what if this hyper-connected, technologically advanced healthcare system is also shockingly vulnerable? What if the very innovations designed to heal could, with a single cyber attack, lead to catastrophic patient harm or even loss of life?
It's not really a hypothetical anymore.
Yeah.
We're facing a stark reality in healthcare, one of the most vital and surprisingly exposed sectors out there. The immense promise of innovation is now, well, dangerously intertwined with the very real peril of cyber warfare.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today. Our sources for this deep dive, they come from a strategic analysis report, Healthcare's Cyber Siege 2025 Risk and Resilience, alongside other key industry insights. Everything's current as of July 2025. Our mission, really, is to explore this increasingly hyper-connected ecosystem, try to understand the escalating threat landscape, the unique risks that come with advanced medical technologies, and, frankly, the staggering human and financial costs if we fail to protect it.
And ultimately, it's about navigating this formidable new regulatory environment and achieving something crucial: resilience by design.
Before we get deep into the weeds, though, let's maybe preview some key takeaways, just high-level stuff.
Okay. First, cyber threats aren't just increasing, they're evolving. We're seeing multi-extortion models targeting sensitive patient data and intellectual property.
And we're apparently in the mega breach era, where systemic vulnerabilities, especially in the healthcare supply chain, are being exploited for massive data compromises.
Yeah. And then there's the paradox of progress.
Yeah.
Cutting-edge medical tech, think robots, the Internet of Medical Things, AI. It introduces severe new attack vectors that actually threaten physical patient safety.
Which is terrifying. And the true cost of a cyber incident, it spirals far beyond just ransom demands. It hits operational continuity, legal liabilities, and patient trust hard.
Absolutely. And layered on top of all that is a formidable new regulatory environment in 2025 that's really reshaping compliance and carries some very high stakes.
It's a complex landscape, clearly. And understanding these specific risks, especially around medical devices and compliance, requires specialized expertise. So we really want to thank www.devicerisk.health and www.hepasecurity.health for supporting this deep dive into these vital topics.
Definitely appreciate their support.
Okay, so you've painted a clear picture. I think to truly grasp the scale, we need to put some numbers to it, because what the data from the first half of 2025 reveals, well, it's worse than it looks initially.
That's right.
On the surface, the numbers might seem, maybe, like good news. Reports to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services show about 31 million individuals had their protected health information, PHI, compromised. That's a big drop, like 41.6% from the first half of 2024. And the number of reported breaches, 3 under 11, is also down about 13%. So seems like an improvement, right?
It seems like it, but it's a deceptive improvement. And here's the crucial twist. That seemingly positive shift is entirely, and I mean entirely, created by the anomalous scale of the 2024 Change Healthcare incident.
Oh, right. That one was huge.
Huge is an understatement. That single event alone compromised an estimated 190 million individuals. It completely skewed the baseline for 2024, made it look like the problem was receding when it absolutely wasn't.
So the raw numbers look better, but because that one massive breach last year set such a high bar, it makes this year look good by comparison. Even if the underlying trend is bad, that's quite deceptive.
Exactly. It created an illusion.
Yeah.
When you strip out that anomaly, that outlier, and look at the actual frequency of incidents, the true picture is, frankly, alarming.
Okay, so what's the real picture?
The healthcare sector reported 283 data breach incidents in the first half of 2025. That's nearly a 20% increase from the same period in 2024.
Wow, a 20% increase.
Yeah. So the threat hasn't receded at all. It's actually become more distributed. It's hitting more organizations more frequently.
So the probability of any given organization being targeted is actually going up. And this leads us to what some are calling the mega breach era.
That's right. Q2 of 2025 alone saw the number of patients compromised nearly triple from Q1. It jumped from 5.6 million to 14.8 million.
Triple in one quarter.
Driven primarily by 5 mega breaches, each one impacting over 500,000 individuals. We're talking about major incidents, like the one at Yale New Haven Health System, affecting 5.5 million people, or the breach at Episource, LLC, that's a business associate, impacting 5.4 million. Blue Shield of California, another 4.7 million.
You mentioned Episource as a business associate. That seems critical here.
It is. What's truly unsettling about these large-scale events is the accelerating trend of breaches originating from business associates, or BAs. These are your third-party vendors, right? Handling everything from billing to data analytics. Now, while the actual number of incidents reported by BAs remains stable, the number of individuals compromised through these third-party breaches surged. An unprecedented 445% increase from Q1 to Q2.
445%, that's astronomical.
It's a huge jump. And it's a clear signal. The 2024 Change Healthcare attack wasn't an anomaly. It was, well, a harbinger. The healthcare supply chain is now the primary battleground.
So it's more efficient for attackers to hit one data-rich business associate than to try and breach dozens of individual hospitals or clinics.
Precisely. Why attack 50 castles when you can take down the main supply depot feeding all of them?
Which means your cybersecurity resilience, if you're in healthcare, is completely tied to your vendor's security posture. It really demands a radical rethinking of third-party risk management, doesn't it? Moving it from just a compliance checklist to a continuous, critical security function.
Absolutely. It has to be ongoing. It has to be deep. And when these breaches hit, the financial implications are just staggering. The average cost of a healthcare data breach has soared to nearly $10 million per incident.
$10 million. Average.
Average. Driven largely by operational disruptions, think canceled surgeries, diverted patients, and massive legal liabilities that follow.
That's a huge number. Let's maybe dig into how these adversaries are operating. What are the tactics?
Well, our sources show that hacking and other IT incidents account for a massive 77% of breaches. And even more telling, they account for nearly 97% of all compromised records in the first half of 2025.
So it's mostly technical attacks, not lost laptops or paper files anymore.
Overwhelmingly. And within that, ransomware continues to dominate. But it's evolved significantly.
How so? It's not just about locking up files anymore.
No, not for a while now. We moved past simple encryption to double extortion, where they encrypt your data and threaten to publish it publicly if you don't pay.
Right, I've heard of that.
But now we're seeing triple extortion. Yeah. They add even more pressure. They might launch distributed denial of service or DDoS attacks against your public website or patient portals, basically flooding them with traffic to shut them down.
Crippling operations even further.
Exactly. Or, in some really nasty cases, they engage in direct harassment of the patients whose data they stole, contacting them directly, demanding ransom, causing immense distress.
That's truly vile.
It is. And what's particularly concerning is the emerging evidence of collaboration. We're seeing financially motivated ransomware groups, big names like Lockbit 3.0 and ALPHV Black Hat, the group behind the Change attack, potentially collaborating with nation-state actors.
So, criminal gangs getting help from government-backed hackers.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
These partnerships allow criminal gangs to leverage advanced techniques, tools, and infrastructure typically reserved for state-sponsored espionage. It increases both the scale and the technical sophistication of the attacks dramatically.
Okay, so the attacks are getting more sophisticated, more brutal, but how are they getting in the first place? Is it always some super complex zero-day exploit?
You'd think so, but often, no. Despite the growing sophistication, the initial entry points frequently exploit basic, preventable weaknesses. In 2024, the top ways in were vulnerability exploitation and compromised credentials, like stolen passwords, both tied at 34%. Phishing came in a close third at 28%.
So over 2/3 of initial access comes from unpatched systems or weak stolen passwords? It's kind of depressing.
It is. It shows we're still struggling with the fundamentals. We've seen specific known software flaws, what we call CVEs, common vulnerabilities and exposures, being actively exploited. Things like CVE 2021-1675, known as Print Nightmare.
Oh, I remember that one in Windows printing.
Exactly. Or CVE 2023-21554, a flaw in Microsoft message queuing that lets attackers remotely run their own code. These aren't brand new. Patches exist, but if systems aren't updated...
they're wide open.
Correct. And the human element remains absolutely critical. In June 2025, compromised email accounts actually surpassed network servers as the most common location of breached PHI, often stemming from widespread phishing campaigns targeting employees, especially at those business associates we talked about.
Which brings us back to the 2024 Change Healthcare cyber attack. It really seems to highlight all of these issues converging, doesn't it?
It's the poster child, unfortunately. It wasn't just a breach. It was a catastrophic failure of critical national infrastructure. Change Healthcare was, effectively, a single point of failure for vast swaths of the U.S. healthcare system. They processed something like 15 billion transactions annually.
$15 billion. And how did the attackers get in? Was it incredibly sophisticated?
That's the most shocking part. The ALPHV Black Hat ransomware group gained initial access using compromised credentials, stolen username and password on a remote access server, a server that lacked multi-factor authentication, or MFA.
No MFA on a critical system like that in 2024.
Unbelievably, yes. A basic, fundamental security control was completely missing. It was like leaving the front door unlocked and wide open.
The impact was immediate and just. Unprecedented, wasn't it? It crippled claims processing, payments ground to a halt nationwide. Providers were facing financial ruin.
Absolutely. A survey found 94% of hospitals reported a financial impact. And crucially, 74% reported direct impacts on patient care, delayed authorizations for procedures, canceled appointments, difficulty verifying coverage.
And the financial fallout for United Health Group, Change's parent company.
Massive. They reported paying a $22 million ransom, though recovery was still difficult. And they faced over $870 million in direct costs just in the first quarter of 2024 related to the attack. That doesn't even count the billions in emergency loans they had to push out to providers just to keep their doors open.
So the crucial lessons here are pretty stark.
Extremely. First, it's the ultimate illustration of supply chain risk. Compromising one highly interconnected vendor can paralyze an entire sector. Second, it highlights the devastating consequences of basic security failures like no MFA. Just devastating. And third, it fundamentally shifted the conversation. We have to move beyond thinking only about preventing attacks to focusing on operational resilience. How do you keep functioning during an attack, and how do you recover quickly?
That concept of resilience brings us neatly to the paradox of progress. All this amazing technological innovation in healthcare, it's incredibly exciting, right? Better diagnostics, personalized treatments, surgical precision.
Absolutely. The potential is enormous.
But this very progress introduces new and frankly perilous vulnerabilities.
Right.
Ones that threaten not just data, but physical patient safety. We always talk about the cybersecurity triad: confidentiality, integrity, availability, CIA. But for healthcare, we absolutely have to add a fourth paramount consideration: safety.
Couldn't agree more. Safety becomes paramount. And this is particularly stark when you look at the modern operating theater. It's now a truly cyber-physical environment.
What do you mean by cyber-physical?
You've got networked robotic-assisted surgery systems, like the popular Da Vinci system connected to the hospital network. You have the broader Internet of Medical Things, or IoMT infusion pumps, patient monitors, anesthesia machines, all communicating digitally. It creates this huge, often poorly understood attack surface.
And these devices, they're not always built with security top of mind, are they?
Historically, no. Functionality and clinical efficacy were the priorities. Security was often an afterthought, if considered at all. The FBI put out an alarming statistic recently. 53% of networked medical devices currently in use have at least one known critical vulnerability.
Right over half. That's staggering. And the potential impact here, it moves way beyond data theft into direct patient harm.
Exactly. Think about system manipulation or hijacking. Research has demonstrated it's technically feasible for attackers to maliciously control a surgical robot's functions, maybe overriding a surgeon's commands during a procedure.
Wait, really? They could make the robot move incorrectly?
The potential exists. One academic study showed that injecting malicious commands into a specific surgical robot's motor controllers could cause its manipulators to jump by several millimeters almost instantaneously. Imagine that happening during delicate surgery. Catastrophic.
That's horrifying.
Or consider availability attacks. Ransomware locking up the surgical robot minutes before a critical operation. Or a DDoS attack disrupting the network connectivity it relies on, delaying life-saving surgery.
And what about AI? We hear so much about AI in surgery now.
AI introduces its own unique risks. Data poisoning attacks could subtly alter the training data for a surgical AI, leading to flawed behavior during an operation. Adversarial attacks could involve making tiny, imperceptible changes to real-time sensor input, like a video feed, tricking the AI into making a wrong move during live surgery.
So the primary risk of a compromised surgical robot or AI-assisted system, it's not data loss, it's loss of life.
Precisely. This elevates cybersecurity from a back-office IT issue to a frontline clinical risk management and patient safety imperative. It has to be embedded in how we evaluate, procure, and manage these technologies. Clinical efficacy alone isn't enough. Cyber resilience has to be right there alongside it.
Which is exactly why specialized expertise in medical device security is so incredibly crucial now. And again, we're grateful to www.devicerisk.health for supporting our discussion on these really unique and critical vulnerabilities.
Their focus on this area is certainly timely.
Okay, so beyond the OR, what about other areas, like imaging?
Right, the digital ghost in the machine. Diagnostic imaging like CT, MRI, X-ray, and radiation therapy equipment are also prime targets. These departments often have fragmented ecosystems, a lot of legacy tech, and sometimes operate on fairly standalone IT infrastructure.
What makes them vulnerable?
A key weakness is the DICOM protocol that's the standard for transmitting and storing medical images. Older versions, which are still widely used, lack robust security features, potentially exposing millions of imaging records and the images themselves.
And the threats. What could an attacker do?
Several things. Data integrity attacks are a major concern. Imagine an attacker maliciously manipulating a CT or MRI scan, maybe adding subtle signs of a tumor where there isn't one, or removing evidence of one that exists.
That could lead directly to misdiagnosis, giving treatment someone doesn't need or delaying treatment they desperately do.
Exactly. Catastrophic consequences for the patient. Then there are availability attacks. Ransomware hitting the picture archiving and communication systems that PCS servers could bring a whole radiology department to a standstill, delaying diagnoses for countless patients. And with radiation therapy equipment, there's the added dimension of nuclear security preventing malicious operational use, like delivering an improper radiation dosage. That has national security implications too.
It's complex. And then there's, well, the code of life itself. CRISPR gene editing technology, genomic data security. This is where it gets really interesting, maybe a bit chilling.
It really does.
Yeah.
Your digitized DNA sequence, your genome, is the ultimate form of personally identifiable information, PII. Unlike a password or a credit card number, if your genomic data is stolen, it cannot be changed. It cannot be reissued.
It's a permanent loss of very intimate privacy.
Permanent. And the potential misuse ranges from lifelong genetic discrimination by insurers, employers, to more exotic threats. Integrity attacks on genomic analysis could manipulate results, maybe hiding a public health threat identified in sequencing data, or giving a patient a false genetic diagnosis with huge personal impact.
And I read something about weaponized DNA. That sounds like science fiction.
It sounds like it, but research has actually demonstrated its feasibility. It's a true bio-cyber attack concept. Research has showed it's possible to encode malicious computer code malware into a sequence of synthetic DNA.
So the malware is written in As, Ts, Cs, and Gs.
Essentially, yes. Then, when a gene sequencing machine processes this synthetic DNA, the way it translates the sequence can trigger the malware to execute on the analysis computer connected to the sequencer. This compromises the computer and potentially the entire lab network.
Wow, so you're using a biological substance to launch a digital attack. That's a completely novel attack vector.
It is. And protecting this domain requires what we're now calling cyber biosecurity. It's not just traditional cybersecurity for the server storing the data. It's about securing the biological samples, the sequencing machines themselves, the analysis pipelines, the research protocols. It's bridging biology and cybersecurity to prevent both digital and potentially biological harm. You could imagine scenarios designing personalized pathogens based on stolen genomic data or hacking into research facilities via DNA samples.
Okay, the threats are clearly evolving and becoming more physical. So let's talk about the true cost of failure when these attacks succeed. It's not just theoretical.
Not at all. And the financial costs are already staggering. For the 14th consecutive year, healthcare has the highest average data breach costs of any industry. The latest figures put it at $9.8 million per incident on average.
9.8 million. Why is it so much higher in healthcare compared to, say, finance or retail?
A big driver is the value of the data itself. Protected health information, PHI, sells for up to $1,000 per record on the dark web. That can be 50 times more valuable than financial information like credit card numbers.
Why so valuable?
Because it contains everything needed for comprehensive identity theft and complex fraud schemes, names, dates of birth, social security numbers, medical history, insurance details. It's a complete identity kit. Plus, ransom demands themselves are huge. The median demand was $4 million in 2024, with 65% being over $1 million.
But you said earlier the direct costs are just the tip of the iceberg.
That's right. About 75% of the total cost of a breach actually comes from the cascading effects, not the immediate technical fixes like forensics or system restoration. The average financial disruption from lost business, things like diverting patients, lost revenue during downtime, needing manual workarounds, averages $1.47 million per breach.
And this raises a really important question. Is this a victimless crime? We talk about data and dollars, but what about the human cost?
Absolutely not victimless. It's far from it. The impact on patient care is severe and, tragically, sometimes fatal. Some estimates suggest that patient mortality rates can increase by as much as 28% in the aftermath of a hospital ransomware attack.
28% increase in mortality. How?
Think about it. Hospitals under attack are forced to divert ambulances to other facilities, often delaying critical emergency care. They have to cancel scheduled surgeries and procedures. Critical diagnostic appointments get postponed. Patient volume can drop by 20-40% because the hospitals simply can't function normally. All of this directly impacts patient outcomes.
And the loss of trust must be huge as well.
Immense. Healthcare experiences the highest customer churn rate after a breach compared to other sectors. Average patient attrition is nearly 7%. Patients lose faith, they go elsewhere if they can. And rebuilding that trust is expensive. Hospitals often increase their advertising and PR spending by an average of 79% in the 2 years following a major breach just to repair their reputation.
So if we break down that $9.8 million average cost, where does it all go?
It's spread across several areas. Detection and escalation, just figuring out what happened and responding initially, averages $1.63 million. Think incident response retainers, forensic analysis, especially if something like your electronic health record system gets hit by ransomware.
Then there's notifying patients.
Right. Notification costs are highly variable depending on the number affected, but they can run into millions. Yale New Haven, for example, spent a reported $16.5 million just on mailing notification letters to 5.5 million patients.
Wow. What else?
Post-breach response averages $1.35 million. This includes things like setting up call centers, offering credit monitoring, or identity theft protection. Think of the millions affected by the Episource or Blue Shield breaches needing that.
And the lost business we talked about.
That's another $1.47 million on average from operational disruption. But for massive events like Change Healthcare, the lost revenue was in the billions. Then you have potential regulatory fines. Under HIPAA, fines can reach up to $2 million per violation category per year. Baycare Health System, for instance, settled for $800,000 over alleged HIPAA violations.
And finally, the legal costs.
Legal fees and settlements can easily run into millions. Change Healthcare is facing nearly 50 class action lawsuits related to their breach. So it all adds up very, very quickly.
Okay, so the costs are enormous. The impact on patients is real. Let's talk about navigating the regulatory landscape in 2025. You called it a minefield earlier.
It really is. This isn't just a random assortment of new rules. It feels like a coordinated global response to this escalating cyber crisis, particularly in healthcare.
And right at the center for U.S. organizations is IPA, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. It's getting a major update.
The most significant update in years, actually. New provisions started taking effect January 1st, 2025, with key compliance deadlines hitting by July 2025.
What are the key changes we need to know about?
Well, there's expanded patient rights, particularly around accessing their own electronic health record data more easily. But crucially for this discussion, there are stricter security requirements. Much more emphasis is being placed on performing thorough security risk analyses, implementing multi-factor authentication across the board, and using encryption effectively for data at rest and in transit. And the Office for Civil Rights, OCR, which enforces IPA, is clearly signaling they intend to step up enforcement and audits.
So tougher rules and tougher enforcement. What else?
For organizations with any kind of international dimension research collaborations, offshore vendors, there are new Department of Justice data transfer restrictions that took effect April 8th, 2025.
Okay, what do these do?
They prohibit or restrict the transfer of bulk U.S. sensitive personal data, and that explicitly includes health data and genomic data to certain countries of concern. Think China, Russia, Iran, North Korea.
Right. But what's really significant about these rules...
What's fascinating and challenging is that the restrictions apply regardless of whether the data is anonymized, pseudonymized, de-identified, or even encrypted using standard methods.
Wait, even if it's anonymized or encrypted, that seems very strict.
It is. It basically forces organizations to completely reevaluate any international data flows involving sensitive U.S. person data, especially to those designated countries. It impacts research partnerships, cloud hosting, vendor relationships. It's a big deal.
Okay. And for publicly traded companies.
The SEC finalized new cybersecurity disclosure rules. These mandate public companies to disclose any material cybersecurity incident within 4 business days of determining its material. They also have to provide annual reports detailing the cybersecurity risk management strategy, governance, and board oversight.
So linking cybersecurity directly to market transparency and investor information.
Exactly. The ripple effect here is clear. A single major incident can now trigger a whole cascade of regulatory actions. You could face a high-pay investigation and fines from OCR, a DOJ inquiry regarding data transfers, SEC enforcement action if you're public, plus the inevitable state investigations and private class action lawsuits.
It's a multi-front battle.
Absolutely. And layered on top of this, we're seeing the rapid rise of AI governance as artificial intelligence moves deeper into clinical settings.
How is AI being regulated?
It's still emerging, but we have major developments. The EU AI Act is starting its first phase of enforcement in mid-2025. It takes a risk-based approach, outright banning certain unacceptable risk AI systems like social scoring and placing heavy requirements on high-risk systems, which will include many healthcare AI applications. This impacts U.S. organizations with EU operations or those handling EU patient data.
And within the U.S.?
It's more of a patchwork at the moment, primarily at the state level. California is leading, as usual. Laws effective January 1, 2025, require things like physician supervision for AI systems used in utilization review, deciding whether care is necessary, and clear disclaimers when AI generates communications directly for patients. Other states are following suit.
Is there anything happening at the federal level on AI in healthcare?
There's proposed legislation. For example, the Healthy Technology Act of 2025, H.R. 238, proposes a framework where the FDA could potentially approve AI systems capable of prescribing drugs. This signals a future where AI could play a core regulated clinical role, which obviously raises the stakes for safety and oversight even further.
Clearly, navigating this complex and, frankly, unforgiving regulatory environment is a monumental task for any healthcare organization.
It truly is. Having the right guidance and tools is essential.
And that's precisely why resources like www.hepasecurity.health are so valuable, offering essential guidance and solutions to help organizations meet these stringent new compliance requirements and protect that sensitive patient data.
Having dedicated resources for HIPAA and security compliance is becoming non-negotiable.
So looking ahead now, what's on the horizon? What are the next frontiers of risk we need to prepare for?
Well, two paradigm-shifting threats loom large, I think. First is the accelerating AI arms race, and second is the inevitable arrival of the quantum computing threat.
Let's start with AI. You mentioned governance, but how is AI changing the attack landscape itself?
We're definitely in an AI arms race. Threat actors are actively using generative AI, I think sophisticated chatbots and text generators, to craft highly convincing personalized phishing emails and social engineering lures at an unprecedented scale. It makes detecting phishing much harder. They can also use AI to find vulnerabilities faster or automate parts of their attacks.
Okay, so AI as an offensive weapon. What about using AI for defense?
AI and automation are definitely powerful defensive tools too. Studies show that organizations using AI and automation extensively for security detect and contain breaches significantly faster, like 98 days faster on average, which translates into real cost savings, nearly $1 million less in response costs. Think AI-powered threat detection, user behavior analytics, automated incident response.
So there's an upside too. But is there a balance?
Well, here's the potential problem. There's a dangerous asymmetry emerging. Healthcare as an industry has been understandably cautious about adopting AI defensively due to legitimate privacy and patient safety concerns. Attackers, however, face no such constraints. They're agile, rapidly weaponizing AI for offense. This creates a potentially dangerous gap where defenders are falling behind the attacker's capabilities.
That's a worrying thought. Okay, what about the quantum threat? This sounds even more futuristic.
It does, but the danger is actually present now, even though powerful quantum computers capable of breaking current encryption are still some years away. The concept is called Harvest Now, Decrypt Later, or HNDL.
Harvest Now, Decrypt Later. What does that mean?
It means sophisticated adversaries, particularly nation-states, are already stealing and storing massive volumes of encrypted data today. They can't break the encryption yet, but they're hoarding the data, betting that in the future, once they have a powerful enough quantum computer, they'll be able to decrypt all this stolen data retrospectively.
So they're collecting data now that they know will be valuable for years or even decades.
Exactly. And why this matters so much to you in healthcare is that health data, things like genomic sequences, detailed long-term medical histories, has incredibly long-term value. Unlike a credit card number that expires, your genetic code or medical history remains relevant and potentially sensitive for your entire life. This makes healthcare data a prime target for HNDL attacks.
So the secrecy of data, we think, is protected by encryption today. It effectively has an expiration date.
That's a good way to put it. The cryptographic protections we rely on today for RSA and ECC encryption will eventually be rendered obsolete by quantum computers.
What's the response then? How do we protect data long term?
The response is post-quantum cryptography, or PQC. These are new cryptographic algorithms designed to be resistant to attacks from both classical and quantum computers. The National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, is in the final stages of standardizing these new algorithms.
So we just switch over to TQC.
If only it were that simple. Migrating entire IT infrastructures, applications, and embedded systems, especially complex ones like in healthcare, to PQC, is a massive undertaking. It will be a multi-year, complex, and expensive process for most organizations.
So what's the key takeaway for organizations right now if quantum computers are still years off?
The key takeaway is that PQC readiness must become a core criterion in all new technology procurement decisions and system architecture designs, starting immediately. You need to be asking vendors about their PQC transition roadmap. You need to factor PQC migration into your long-term IT strategy now so you're not caught flat-footed when the transition becomes urgent.
Okay. So given this incredibly complex and frankly dangerous landscape escalating attacks, supply chain risks, physical threats from devices, new regulations, future threats like AI and quantum on it, what are the strategic imperatives? What should healthcare organizations be doing right now?
The urgent call to action is clear. The current landscape demands a fundamental shift in mindset, moving away from solely focusing on prevention towards building resilience by design, because a successful intrusion is no longer a matter of if, but truly when.
So, first imperative, adopt resilience by design. What does that mean in practice?
It means accepting that compromise is inevitable at some point. You need to design and build your systems, processes, and organization to continue functioning safely, protect critical assets, and recover quickly even when operating in a compromised state. This isn't just an IT department issue anymore. It's a core business continuity and patient safety mandate that belongs squarely with the C-suite and the board of directors.
And actionable steps for that.
Robust, frequently tested incident response plans, proven disaster recovery capabilities, redundant critical systems, clear clinical protocols for maintaining patient care during IT outages or cyber attacks. You have to plan for failure.
Okay, number 2.
Overhaul third-party risk management, or TPRM. We've seen how critical this is. The supply chain is the new front line. TPRM can't be a point-in-time check mark anymore. It has to be continuous, dynamic.
What does continuous look like?
It means deep, ongoing security assessments of all your business associates and vendors, moving beyond simple questionnaires to requiring actual evidence of effective security controls, mandating strong security standards, breach notification timelines, and liability clauses right in the contracts, demanding transparency like requiring software bills of materials, or SBOM, so you know what components are in the software you rely on. We're seeing about 83% of organizations starting to integrate cyber standards into RFPs that needs to be universal.
Makes sense. Third imperative.
Implement a zero-trust architecture, or ZTA. The old castle and moat security model, where you trust everything inside your network perimeter, is completely obsolete. Zero trust operates on the principle of never trust, always verify. Assume your network is already compromised.
And how do you implement zero trust? What are the key actions?
It involves several things working together. Enforcing the principle of least privileged users and systems only get access to the absolute minimum they need to function. Robust network segmentation to contain breaches if they occur. Universal multi-factor authentication, MFA, without exception for all access. Continuous monitoring of network traffic and user behavior using analytics to spot anomalies.
Got it. Fourth.
Secure the cyber-physical frontier. That means your Internet of Medical Things, IoMT, and operational technology, OT, like building management systems or lab equipment. We know this is a direct patient safety imperative. Around 35% of organizations now see OT security as their biggest cyber concern.
Actions for securing IoMT OT.
Start with a comprehensive inventory. You can't protect what you don't know you have. Isolate these devices on segmented networks, separate from the main corporate IT network whenever possible. Implement rigorous vulnerability management processes specifically for these devices. And for older, legacy devices that can't be patched, use compensating controls like virtual patching with network security tools.
Okay, fifth imperative.
Fortify the human layer. Your workforce, doctors, nurses, administrators, everyone is both a critical line of defense and, unfortunately, often a primary target for attackers via phishing and social engineering.
So, training.
Yes, but not just once-a-year checkbox training. It needs to be continuous, engaging, and role-specific security awareness education. Regular simulated phishing exercises to test and reinforce learning. Clear policies and technical controls to mitigate insider threats, whether malicious or accidental.
And finally, preparing for what's next.
Yes, exactly. Prepare for the future. First, establish a formal AI governance program now. You need a framework to evaluate the risks and rewards of adopting AI, ensuring it's done safely, ethically, and in compliance with emerging regulations. Second, begin strategic planning for that post-quantum cryptography migration we discussed. PQC readiness must be a factor in your long-term technology roadmaps and procurement decisions starting today.
That's a comprehensive list. So to recap this deep dive, healthcare cybersecurity has profoundly transformed. It's moved far beyond being just an IT issue. It's now fundamentally about patient safety, operational continuity, financial stability, and even touches on national security.
Absolutely. We're seeing attacks increase in frequency and sophistication. The supply chain has emerged as a critical vector of vulnerability. Compromised medical devices pose direct physical harm to patients, and the regulatory landscape is becoming increasingly complex and demanding.
The bottom line seems to be that a proactive, integrated strategy focused on resilience by design is no longer just a good idea or an optional extra. It's absolutely essential for organizational survival and, most importantly, for the continued safe delivery of patient care.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's a fundamental requirement now.
The future of medicine, with all its incredible promise, is truly here. But its resilience, its ability to deliver on that promise safely, depends not just on the pace of innovation, but on our collective ability to anticipate and protect its most vulnerable points. For healthcare leaders, for clinicians, for innovators, the crucial question we all need to ask isn't just how advanced can we become, but perhaps more importantly, how secure must we be?